So we're starting to see things ramp up in regards to what is presumed to be Modern Warfare 2 here coming later this fall. We've had so much in terms of leaks already, and as of recently, even the official teasers have started. Now, in regards to that on the official end, I'd imagine we end up seeing those start to compound on top of each other more and more of the coming weeks here after Season 3's launch, leading up to when we may see an eventual reveal at the end of next month. Today, though, I kind of wanted to recap a little bit of what we know in regards to Warzone 2, if you will. The project coming that will be a follow-up to the Warzone that we know already, and what has already been confirmed. With Infinity Ward at the helm of both this and Modern Warfare 2, I kind of wanted to take a look at these perhaps in periodic tandem so that we can take a look into the development and the progress of what we can look forward to for both of those. So today I want to take a look at what we know, what's been rumored, and some of the big questions still on the table. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below. What would you like to see in Warzone 2? Weaponry, map-wise, fundamental gameplay features, you name it. Feel free to drop your thoughts down below, but as well, if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it, and if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Warzone 2 potentially here, Modern Warfare 2 in the near future, and of course Season 3 right on the horizon here coming later this week. And actually, with Season 3 coming up, a little reminder, if you guys want to support the channel a little further with the upcoming Battle Pass and any of the items in-game, you can use creator code Espresso in the Support a Creator function. It's an entirely optional, seriously do not ever feel pressure to, entirely optional way to support the channel a little further, but if you do, tweet me a picture. I'd love to shout out some of your generous support in upcoming videos. That said, let's jump into it. Let's start on the official side of things here. What have we officially heard about Warzone 2? The very first mention that we can see here of this comes from a pre-season 2 briefing that myself, other creators, and other press ended up taking part in with Pat Kelly, studio head at Infinity Ward, and a couple of other developers at a high level, talking about the future of Warzone, the plans here for this year, but also what is upcoming next. This was the first time where we learned that they were going to be breaking apart and making its own Warzone 2 here as a separate entity, but there really wasn't a whole ton talked about at that point because they wanted to focus on the next year, not necessarily too far out. However, as of today even, we ended up getting a little bit more confirmation here from the official capacity. No super solid details or anything like that, but acknowledging its existence, its development, and everything like that in an earnings call today for the Q1 report from Activision, alongside further confirmation of Modern Warfare 2. Without explicitly stating the name, Activision said in their reports, this year's Call of Duty is a sequel to 2019's Modern Warfare, the most successful Call of Duty title to date, and will be the most advanced experience in franchise history. The new free-to-play Warzone experience, which is built from the ground up alongside the premium game, features groundbreaking innovations to be revealed later this year. So, a nice little detail here right off the top is that we're going to see this revealed during this year. It's not something we're going to have to wait around like the March or April timeframe and just see it kind of drop out of nowhere like we saw with Warzone 1. We'll have some actual genuine marketing for it, which is definitely nice. Now, if I'm spitballing here, if it's launching as of next year in March, as it's rumored right now, and if the other rumors end up coming true where we won't have anything in regards to an integration from Modern Warfare 2022's content in regards to Modern Warfare 2 come later this year, the content and weaponry coming into Warzone 1, then I'd kind of imagine around that Season 1 timeframe, that's when we see our first teasers or maybe even a full-on reveal to give players 3 to 4 months of getting ready for what's upcoming. But we'll touch on that a little bit more here in just a second. Now, the key parts for this actual official PR statement, though, come down from that we'll see it revealed later this year, but also that we'll see built out with the ground-up mentality. Warzone right now was not built from the ground up with Warzone as its main focus in mind. We've talked about this plenty of times here, that this was meant to be a side mode, nothing that was really meant to last another 3 years, an additional 2 games worth of content and weaponry and everything like that thrown into things, and why we still have so many issues come each integration and why we're still technically limited in a lot of gameplay areas. Probably the most notable is that of a lack of an FOV slider for consoles. Now, from the ground up indicates that it's its own thing, that it's going to be its own application, its own exe file, not sharing with anything else. We've talked about this before as well, but for those that are unaware, Warzone's exe, even if you have the free version, it's just a partitioned build of the Modern Warfare 2019 exe. So this would be something that is warzone.exe in theory. It wouldn't be pulling assets or sharing anything from Modern Warfare 2 in that sort of tandem that we see upcoming this year. Now that's absolutely huge. Now they also mentioned that there are groundbreaking innovations. That's something that we don't really have too much information on just yet, though we did get a little bit of information from that pre-season 2 call with Pat Kelly, where they mentioned there was a new engine, probably a bit more refined and everything like that, and it would feature an all-new play space and a new sandbox mode. So we'll see how that all works out, but outside of that, that's where everything else gets kind of hazy. We have rumors, we have leaks and everything like that, but from here on out, this is where it all should be taken with a grain of salt, where nothing can actually be confirmed but it's still worth knowing. Now for this, we have very limited information, but this comes from the Ghost of Hope, Tom Henderson, and other industry insiders that we've talked about here in the past. Now the Ghost of Hope ended up mentioning that he saw the new map upcoming, or the work in progress build here for it, and the one thing that he saw that stood out to him was an observatory point of interest. We've talked about this before as well, where it was something that looked to be an observatory in the Atacama Desert, and that was something that was previously rumored to be the main location of this, but he also recently mentioned that it would be set around Medellin, Colombia. So we'll see how that all works out. Obviously, that's not a desert location, so curious which one this will be. But if we're talking about the Atacama Desert, though, there was that long rumored Urzikstan map from Modern Warfare 2019's main year of support that could definitely be brought back into the question, but we'll have to wait and see. The only other stuff in terms of actual gameplay details really out there is that it's rumored right now we'll see classic points of interest introduced that were sort of that legacy or classic Modern Warfare trilogy maps from that multiplayer. So that'd be a way to kind of bring those classic maps back into the fold, but also retaining a new air to them, if you will. So to my knowledge, I don't think that many of these were named explicitly. I think I remember seeing that Rust and Terminal were a part of that list, but that's something that absolutely changed. So outside of that, well, what are the big questions here in regards to what's still outstanding? The biggest couple to me are the launch time. When will this actually launch? What does this mean for Warzone right now? Warzone 1, if we will. And then what happens with Rebirth Island? So to me, those are all great questions that honestly we don't have any real answers to, but we have some hints that could provide some clarity. Now for this, again, it's been rumored that we'll see that March to spring of 2023 for the launch of Warzone 2. And to me, that makes the most sense. You give Modern Warfare 2 what is going to be the most anticipated game of at least the last 3 year cycle here at this, but also has the potential to even exceed Modern Warfare 2019 again in terms of its sales numbers perhaps. You give that time to breathe. Another 4 to 5 months here after the launch of the game, depending on if it launches in October or in November, depending on when they decide to do that. But then you don't take away from that game's initial sales, that initial launch, because Warzone will not be there just yet to take up the limelight for that. Listen, Modern Warfare 2019 I thought was a good game. I loved the setting of it. Some gameplay features I didn't quite agree with, but Modern Warfare 2019 would have done incredibly well by its own, and it did. But Warzone absolutely contributed to millions upon millions of copies of that game being sold. So Warzone definitely would be something that would overshadow that launch, so they want to give that time there. The other rumor, though, that's kind of curious with Warzone 2 here, following that then potentially with the March to spring of 2023 timeframe, well, Tom Henderson mentioned that this would be current generation only, where he said Warzone 2 is literally that, Warzone 2. Current gen and PC only, no past weapon integrations, a complete new game for better hardware. So that's something that, again, is quite the groundbreaker for a lot of the discussion here with this, because Warzone 1 then would essentially be null and void. You wouldn't have anything to do with this. You wouldn't have your Modern Warfare 2019 weapons. You wouldn't have your Cold War, your Vanguard weapons. And then subsequently, all those blueprints, cosmetics, and everything would then be left on Warzone 1. And we'd start fresh with Warzone 2 and Modern Warfare 2 weaponry here for what's upcoming. So now that might be something that is good, bad, depending on how you look at it. I know that it's definitely something that, from the perspective of paying money for microtransactions and everything like that, the only real way that I can look at this is that we ended up getting 3 years of usability out of certain blueprints, weapons, and everything like that, as opposed to where if you bought something in a game prior, you'd only have a 365-day turnover at max. So that's something that I'm kind of torn with here. I don't know how that's going to be received overall, but it is something that looks to be the case. Now again, what does this then mean for Warzone 1? With no integration for Modern Warfare 2 here potentially on the horizon for what we have now, that would then leave a gap period from October or November all the way until March or sometime in spring, where what does that mean? No new weapons, so you're playing with the same armory that you've had the past 2.5 years or so. What does that mean for a map change? Will we see Verdansk come back? That's something that is rumored that Verdansk will be coming back, but I think that's more so likely going to be just for Warzone Mobile. So we may still be on Caldera for a couple of months. You may see Verdansk come back to fill out that gap. We just don't quite know. And same thing with Rebirth. I don't know that Rebirth would be something that makes its way into Warzone 2 immediately. I think that would be something where, just with like what we saw since Warzone launched, we'll kind of have that 6-month staggered event status where you have Warzone 2 launch in March. We won't have any new game rumored right now in 2023 for the fall, so that could shape things up a little bit differently, but then we'd have like that season air quote 1 or maybe maybe 7 here, where maybe then we finally get the introduction of Rebirth Island or a Rebirth Island-esque map, simply because you don't want to take away from the new experience right up front by offering multiple different maps. I think that I'd be cool with that, but that's the sort of way they look at it. They don't want to fragment that player base as much because it bolsters out those sort of reported numbers here. If you have 100 million players on one map as opposed to 50 million on two, 100 million definitely looks nicer, even though cumulatively it's still the same. So we'll have to wait and see how that all shapes up, but right now we're still kind of in that phase of learning more and more about Warzone 2, but I wouldn't expect a whole ton until a couple of months later on down the line. And in terms of leaks, well, we've talked about it before, with Modern Warfare 2019 being the base application for Warzone, things had to be integrated into the game and put into the game files earlier than their actual launch dates. So we ended up learning about Verdansk 84. We ended up learning about Caldera well before the maps actually dropped. But if this is going to be its own standalone application, theoretically speaking, we might not have any links to Warzone that we have right now. So that means that maybe we don't see any leaks, perhaps outside of just what industry insiders have, and maybe some gameplay that leaks out here and there. We can't quite data mine for that, perhaps. But that said, that's what we're going to wrap it up. Just wanted to have a casual conversation here with you guys ahead of Season 3, talking about Warzone 2, since it seems like all things with Modern Warfare 2 look to be ramping up. So let me know your thoughts down below. Is there anything in particular you guys are really looking forward to? Anything that you hope to see come to fruition? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Warzone, Warzone 2, Modern Warfare 2, and of course, Season 3 here upcoming this week. We've got you covered. But that said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.